the National Legends Cars Championship in association with Park Lane Cars. Welcome along to Donington Park, the latest round of the National Legends Cars Championship after a very long summer break. Last time you saw us, we were on Anglesey. As we left there, the championship table looked like this. Miles Rudman, the defending champion, on top from John Mickle and Will Gibson. Steve Whiteleg fourth from Marcus Pett and Jack Parker.
Hi, driver number 85, Mark BT. Good to catch up with you again. You've had a fairly consistent season. You're currently 14th in the championship before heading into this particular round here at Donington. How are you feeling ahead of today?
Pretty confident. I've been fairly quick today. Quick in familiarisation this morning, and we've had a good day testing yesterday as well. So a bit disappointed that we're only kind of mid-table, but we had some really bad luck towards the start of the season. So we're going into this weekend, we're fairly positive, and we're going fairly quick, so all good.
And where's the random grid draw put you this time?
It's put me on row 2, so it puts us in a good stead for the first one, puts us towards the back for the next one, but I don't mind battling my way through if I have to. So,
driver the number 33, Kieran Beattie. He's been a bit of a mixed season for you, I think it's fair to say. You were telling me earlier you had some real dire luck in some places. How are you feeling ahead of Donington?
Well, very, very positive this weekend. Actually, we've had a bit of a mix-up in the team. We're trying new setups. We're trying a couple of different things, but it's mostly been my own issues that have caused the loss in points, really. So it's just going to be a case of playing catch-up and hope we'll have a good weekend, a good clean weekend.
You're an honest man. So where's the random grid draw put you?
Right at the back. Yeah, right at the very back. So back this race, front the next one, and then we'll see where the final brings us.
So race 2 we'll be having a chat to in Winner's Circle, will we?
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. There's a first for everything.
Ricky Leggett's back behind the wheel of the number 26. It's great to see you back in your native territory and racing the car. It's the first round of the season. How confident are you? As it's been a while since you were behind the wheel.
Well, I did say to the boys we have a game plan, go out this morning and practice. First time since last November in the car. Took it easy for first lap, come in quick check, went out, and then the mist came down and just felt at home again straight away. So one spin through Craners sort of woke me up a little bit more. But yeah, great fun, great fun.
Problems for multi-champion John Mickle, who's got to start from pit lane. I say problems, but seemingly and hopefully sorted, because he will take the start, which is the good news. Bad news is loads of work for him to do. Our front runners here, drawing pole position, Mike Schlupp and Nathan Anthony. Here's the view from Mark Beattie, P4 of the grid. Alongside him is Luke Simmons, Eduardo Gago and Jack Parker on row 3. We are Legends Cars Racing after the long summer break. Mark Beattie in green, right of shot, goes to the outside, as does behind him in black Miles Rudman. But leading, it's Nathan Anthony in the Savannah. The 29 machine leads them through Redgate, down into Hollywood for the first time. Steve Whiteleg a little bit further back. Racing hard there with the team car of John T. Norman's day, and through on the inside goes Gareth Sheridan. It's Nathan Anthony, the leader, as they go down into the old hairpin for the first time. Jack Parker passes Mike Schlupp there for second place. Lee Fitzpatrick down behind Eduardo Gago. Here's Luke Simmons. Is this 4th, 5th or 6th place? There's a whole gaggle of cars up front and they all seem to eclipse each other. as they jostle for position going through McLean's where they are now. A huge field of cars. Luke Simmons kicks up a little bit of dirt. Will Gibson therefore has better momentum, goes on the outside run in the 57 car. Andy Bird behind him, the ex-supercarter in the number 30. Nice to see Andy back with us after missing him at Anglesey. Fitzpatrick to the inside of Gago. Eduardo, much more of a newcomer than Lee Fitzpatrick. Lee, a former champion, sharing that car with Luke Takashis this year, as Jack Parker assumes lead position now from Nathan Anthony. Miles Rutland third. Fourth is a battle between Mark Beattie and Mike Schlupp. Here comes Lee Fitzpatrick looking on the inside of Andy Bird. A little bit of bump drafting to help him down the straight. Is he going to get closer to Will Gibson in black and blue? Here's the battle for the lead though. Parker on the outside, very wide run into Redgate. Miles Rudman was, I think, bump drafting with Nathan Anthony in yellow and blue. On board with Will Gibson. Still having a great battle here with Andy Bird. Andy not afraid to use the outside run here. He's got plenty of experience from supercarts of this track. It's Jack Parker, the leader now for Miles Rudman in second. So Rudman starting near the front courtesy of the draw. Having a good run here up into P2. Will be challenging for the lead to maintain that big championship lead that he's got at the moment. So here is Will Gibson. Oh, in contact there between Chris Needham and Mark Beattie. There they are in the background. Beattie in the all-green car is going to get back on first. It looked like a little bit of contact between Needham into the back of him. Whether he wasn't anticipating a slightly slower car or whatever happened, I don't know, but they've tangled and they're off, and that's any big points out of the window for those, as Jack Parker challenges to retake the lead from Miles Rudman in the black number 1, who assumes lead position. Super run from him. Let's have another look at what happened between Chris Needham. Looks up the inside of Mark Beattie, gives him a little tap. Beattie spins around, did a quick recovery, but that's not going to save him too many championship points, as Mike Schlupp is passed by Will Gibson. Gibson going up into 4th place side by side for the lead. Jack Parker gets back in front. The Wolverhampton man is there with Nathan Anthony still very much in the mix in the 29, having a good run, as is Steve Whiteleg. I thought he was going to go into the back of Mike Schlupp's car there, but that was just commitment and speed from Steve Whiteleg. And Steve makes up place. There's Charlie Budd, who's been caught now by John Mickle. So Mickle's run from the pits has netted a few race positions. Let's see how far he can get up from the back of the grid. It's the great thing with this type of racing, that your chances aren't always written off if you start from the back. Safety cars may well help. That was Luke Simmons, by the way, making the move on the outside. And Steve Whiteleg in red has now caught Andy Bird. Bird behind Nathan Anthony. That is, I think, our first retirement. It's Eduardo Gago in his 37 Ford sedan, and it's Jack Parker still challenging for the lead, but the defending champion Miles Rudman is out front at the moment from Jack Parker. Will Gibson in third. Gibson running with his old chassis again, the chassis that he debuted, or that he had the seasonal debut with at Alton Park, but that chassis was damaged. He then went over, got a new chassis, spare chassis, and he's gone back to the old one. A spin there for Leonard Woodcock, sadly, in the 321 car. Very close for the lead though. At the moment, Steve Whiteleg wants to get on with the lead quartet if he can, and he's side by side with Nathan Anthony at the moment. Here we come down through the grain of curbs. The red car and the blue and yellow machine was the onboard we were looking at, and as a result of that, Steve Whiteleg goes up into 5th place. Nathan Anthony having a decent race here as well in the first for Van's car. Here's Will Gibson. So Will right on the back bumper of Jack Parker. Doesn't stick there, he just backs out of that a little bit. He's trying to weigh up where the best place to effect a pass is. And Steve Whiteleg has now caught Andy Bird, so Andy Bird in the mix for this one as well. There is Andy in the white and black with the green number 30. 4th place at the moment, down behind Will Gibson. Gibson chasing Parker, Parker chasing Miles Rudman. Rudman getting defensive here. That gives Gibson the chance to stretch his legs a little bit down the straight. Goes to the outside run as they come into the chicane. Can't quite do it, stays in 3rd place. It's Miles Rudman, the race leader. Andy Bird behind them in 4th place. Steve Whiteleg will be rubbing his hands together with glee and trying to close in. Great shot of Andy Bird putting the pressure on here from 4th place on to 3rd, but it's a 5-way battle now for the lead. Rudman the leader. Gibson goes to the outside. in his, as I said, seasonal starting chassis. It's running well. They've straightened it all up and got it running well. He's running with Matt Roach this weekend. Round the outside, up into second place. A hard-earned move by Gibson. We're looking at Jack Parker, who's now in third place. So it's between Rudman, Gibson, Parker, Whiteleg. You wouldn't write any of those off. Neither Andy Bird, who is in fifth place. This is classic Legends Cars racing. See the SulNOx branding on the back of the number one car. We'll be seeing Dr. Daniel Clark in tomorrow's racing. Not the Dan Clark we're used to, but another one, the man who owns SulNOx. That's Lee Fitzpatrick going wide. And onto the gravel. You can see the green LEDs there, incidentally, being brought in as a replacement for flags. Very, very clearly visible. Less so when you're a spectator. As Gibson goes for the lead. Will Gibson through on the inside, passes the reigning champion. The championship leader is usurped. Now look at this, Steve Whiteleg going for second place on the outside. We saw an inside leg earlier on. This is an outside leg. It will convert to the inside for this corner. Out of the chicane they go, onto the Wheatcroft straight. And it's Will Gibson leading, but coming back is Miles Rudman, who blasts past him down the straight, back into the lead. Parker in third. Then it is Steve Whiteleg. Andy Bird still there. Gap back to Luke Simmons in 25. The black, green and white car, the leading rookie first-year driver at the moment in this race. John Mickle trying to get on terms with that group. Dicing with Marcus Pett. Marcus fifth in the championship. Mickle, of course, second. The duo starting to break away a little bit. Let's choose between Rudman and Gibson. I can tell you that John Mickle has recorded the fastest lap. Here's the view back from Steve Whiteleg. Andy Bird, I really hope that we get to see him get that race win before too long, as Steve Whiteleg goes through on the inside equally with Andy Bird. A full season and some luck that he deserves. It will come to him, I'm sure. Down the inside here of Jack Parker. All of these guys at the front, multi-race winners, aside from Andy Bird, but it's just a question of time. There is John Mickle, fastest man in the race in the Quick Steel Silver 4. Closing in here at Donington Park. We'll have more for you after the break. So the battle for the lead continues. Miles Rudman out front from Will Gibson in second place. Steve Whiteleg third. Andy Bird up into fourth place now ahead of Jack Parker. Maybe a little bit shy of the lead trio. Perhaps if they work together they can close in. Here's John Mickle on the back of Luke Simmons. John challenging for seventh place here as they go on to the last lap. We've got a car off to the side. That's Gareth Sheridan, who will join Chris Needham and Paul Simmons, as well as Eduardo Gago in retirement for this race. But Miles Rudman the leader. Here is the view from the third place car. Steve Whiteleg in 66 trying to close them down. Now, has Miles Rudman peaked too soon? This is very often a game of chess between these cars, as Mickle now passes Nathan Anthony to go up into sixth place from the back of the grid. A stonking drive by John Mickle. Great driving all the way down the field, to be absolutely fair. But that's from pit lane, remember. Here's the view from Luke Simmons. Luke about to try and nip past Nathan Anthony as well. Great battle between Luke and the Savan. Whiteleg closing in. That might mean that Gibson might have to go a bit defensive. He's running out of time though to make the move on Miles Rudman. Through go the lead trio. Andy Bird fourth. Then it's Jack Parker. John Mickle next up. Anthony. Then Simmons. There's the 21 car of Sean Smith. Great to see Sean back in the championship as well. A front runner of old. Waved yellows there, so there won't be a passing opportunity. There might be going into the chicane, but they couldn't start to make the move there where the yellow flags were, and it's Miles Rudman who will take the win from Will Gibson in second place. And there it is. Rudman wins, Gibson second, Steve Whiteleg in third. A 47th career win for Miles Rudman. Comes Nick Bridgman across the line. Nick down in 17th place. Miles Rudman one short of Stephen Treherne's 7th place career all-time wins of 48. What a great Legends race to open up our weekend here. And Miles Rudman, not only the defending champion but the championship leader, outscores the man third in the standings, Will Gibson. But Gibson will, I think, start nearer the front in race two. Here's how they went across the line. Top six I gave you already. Nathan Anthony in 7th from Luke Simmons and Mike Schlupp. Then Marcus Pett, he's in 10th from Charlie Budd in 11th. Sean Smith was next up from Ben Higgins and Lee Fitzpatrick. The Beattie brothers together in 14th and 15th. Then Nick Bridgman and Matthew Knight. Robin Fountain next from Jonty Norman and Ollie Schlupp. Ricky Leggett and Bill Reid next from Daniel Pooley, Lenny Woodcock and James Newbury. Let's go down and talk to our podium finishers.
A familiar face yet again on the top spot, number 1, Miles Rudman. Of the 28 races we've had so far this season, you've only missed a podium 5 times. What on earth is the secret?
There's no secret really, just always turn up and try and do my best obviously, and yeah, just try and keep it consistent really, and yeah, so just doing my best.
Now you started 8th this time around, so that does start you right towards the back, and we're on a track that really can deploy a very heavy right foot. Do those conditions really suit you?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's quite a long circuit, so the draft is key really here. So, you know, as you probably saw in that first race, I didn't really want to get into the lead as early as I did, but yeah, I managed to maintain the position throughout the race. But yeah, it's going to be tough, but just got to get my head down and just do the best of it I can.
Another familiar phase here in Winner's Circle. Second home, fastest in the pre-qualifying session, and with a broken diff. How?
Yeah, it's the diff was screaming very, very loud, and I was worried pretty much the whole race that it was going to just fail on us. But yeah, we'll change that for the next race. Yeah, I don't fancy taking my chances with that, that's for sure.
Steve Whiteleg, pilot of the number 66, started 15th and coming home in 3rd. My goodness me, the smile couldn't be bigger.
Well, that's true. I can only thank the team, of course, Brisbane Motorsport, who have given me the tools to do it with. We've been working on the car sort of since mid-season to try and get me back to a place where I was in 2018, and we seem to be there. I mean, Anglesey had a couple of wins, and I hope to carry that on this weekend. But yeah, that particular race was awesome. It was very warm. We drove quite an attacking race. And it seems to have paid off. I think another lap I might have perhaps got second. You can always say that, can't you, after the flag?
Rob Fountain, 2000 Legends champion, in charge of the 31 cars. Great to see you back in the series. How's it going so far? You had a really unlucky grid draw starting 23rd for race number 1. How's it gone so far?
The engine was a bit flat, to be honest, but hopefully we can remedy that for the next race, and then with the grid draw I'll be starting a little bit further up for the next race.
Is it all kind of coming back to you, or do you feel like you've never been away?
It's a long time. The competition is a lot more now. Things have moved on. It's just, I think it's a lot of seat time. You probably saw that I just did Alton, and then compared to when I raced before, I've got a lot more business commitments. So unfortunately, racing has to take a back seat at the moment, but we're back. We're really enjoying it, and that is the main thing. We come here, we have a good time, and that's what we take away. Even if we don't have the best results, we really love being back in the series.
So, newcomer to the series, first time in any kind of motorsport, let alone in the world of legends. Dan Clark, Dr. Dan Clark, I should say, not the pilot of the number 14. You're sharing the car with Ricky Leggett. Tell us how this came about.
Okay, so this is largely thanks to my friendship with Rick through the association with SulNOx, who are sponsoring the Legends series this year. I've been involved with the chemistry behind that, the reduction of production of waste, which is what SulNOx is all about, and I've been fortunate enough for Rick to ask me if I want to come down, take part, and here I am. I'm really looking forward to it.
So Chris Needham in a bit of an unusual position in the Legends Championship, as you are involved in 2 different cars managed by the same team.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I had to share the car with my teammate Gareth, the 99 car, and then we had the second car, the 98 car, which we either hire out or I'll drive as well.
So when you hop from one to another, do you notice a particular difference between the 2 cars?
Not really, no. After a lap or 2, you're settled into whatever you're driving anyway, I think. So the seating position's slightly different, but apart from that, yeah, they're both won races, so they're both quick enough.
Second race underway, reverse grid. Kieran Beattie was off the back in race 1, so he starts on pole position. Rob Fountain to his outside, then Marcus Pett and Charlie Budd, who we are on board with. And away we go. Budd trying to bump draft with Rob Fountain, but Marcus Pett chases Kieran Beattie down into Redgate. 4, maybe 5 wide as they go into Redgate. This is always a worrying moment in any championship. They've all made it through Redgate. Nobody in the gravel, nobody even wide. Here's the view from Beattie to his outside. It's Leonard Woodcock being passed just a tad further back. The 98 car running well. Chris Needham. A little bit of a lock-up coming down into the old hairpin for Kieran Beattie, but maintains lead position. John Mickle, as you can see, a fair way back. So 2 effectively back of the grid starts for him, the man who was fastest in lap number 1, in race number 1, and chasing hard, but it's Beattie from Pett. Nick Bridgman is in 3rd place, then Rob Fountain. Will Gibson engaged in battle at the moment with Sean Smith, and contact Lee Fitzpatrick on Charlie Budd, who gets the turnaround. Charlie Budd is going to be out of the race. The Clarks are going to be looking at that. You know, when you get it's first lap bunching to all intents and purposes, but look, how did Lenny Woodcock miss? Luke Simmons' car there, great driving from Leonard Woodcock. Side by side for the lead. Marcus Pett goes into the lead in the 79 car. Dan Pooley in 32. Racing well hard, that's Mark Beattie. That was contact with a black car, possibly Miles Rudman. Beattie is in the tyre barrier, that needs to be fixed for sure. Beattie recovers, back with the leaders. Marcus Pett now in the lead from Will Gibson in 2nd place, so Gibson 2nd. 3rd in blue is Nick Bridgman. Here's John Mickle right in the mix of things with Sean Smith to his inside. It's still very busy. It's still 2-3 cars wide as they go down through the crane. Occurs on lap 2 and a spin. 4:51. Paul Simmons off the track as well. Goes Steve Whiteleg in avoidance. Keep your foot down, Steve. Good recovery from Whiteleg, but that's a lot of championship points potentially lost there. He goes back on. Mark Beattie has pulled up in retirement after that knock. Let's see what happened. We're on board with Mark, and it's the back end of Miles Rudman's car that clipped his and forced him off. Clearly Rudman was in front, but there needed to be room for the 2 cars coming out of the chicane. We'll leave that to the clerk of the course, who will look at that. It has meant the retirement from Mark Beattie. Paul Simmons being live recovered as well. The marshals working so hard to sort that out. There will be yellows at various points on track as Kieran Beattie leads this group. So Beattie, the leader from Jack Parker, in the mix here with Sean Smith. Wonderful to see Sean back in the championship. Love to see him get another run at a full season of Legends Cars racing. That would be mega. He's in 3rd place at the moment. So through they go. Lee Fitzpatrick up ahead of John Mickle, and then Miles Rudman in the number 1 car. John doing another charge through the field in this one. Along Starkey Straight, passes the multi-champion, passes former champion. Lee Fitzpatrick, to be fair, has had a good few seasons away and is only a part-time racer in the shared team car, but enjoying his racing nonetheless. There is Nathan Anthony, obviously started at the front in race number 1. And we'll have more action for you from race 2 here at Donington after the break. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking there were 2 races going on here, because there are the 2 leaders, Will Gibson and Marcus Pett, going through. And this battle, which we've rightly been focused on, is for 3rd place. Jack Parker looks on the inside of Kieran Beattie. Beattie hangs on to it. Sean Smith takes a little bit of curb. Squirrely moment there for Charlie Budd. John Mickle's going to go to his outside. Lee Fitzpatrick, his teammate, following him through 55. Miles Rudman right with them. And then Gareth Sheridan in the 99 is in the mix as well. Beg your pardon, it's the 98 Legends car, which of course is Chris Needham. So Needham going through. This the battle for third, all close stuff. Kieran Beattie has not had a podium so far in National Legends cars racing, and he's showing great mettle here, defending from the vastly more experienced Jack Parker and Sean Smith. There's a championship battle if ever I saw one. How many championships have we got in that group? With Lee Fitzpatrick, Miles Rudman in black ahead of us, and John Mickle immediately ahead of him. And that's the key point of it, again, about Legends. Championship winning drivers stay with the formula. I don't think there's a buzz equal to it anywhere else. Some of them move on, many of them come back, as we've seen Lee Fitzpatrick do, as we've seen John Mickle do year after year, and Miles Rudman as well. Rob Fountain still running strongly in the 31. Interesting to hear from Robin is about seat time. He hasn't had a huge amount of seat time with business commitments going on as the race leaders head, I think, onto the last lap. Yes, there it is. So, last lap. And it's Will Gibson. I'll tell you what, Marcus Pett isn't finished, although he's 2 or 3 lengths behind. We saw in race number 1 that it is possible to close up, but look at this gap. Now, race control are telling us that there is a lot of observation about passing under yellow flags here, or yellow lights as well. So there are going to be some judicials after this race, and some decision making to be made about people passing under yellow flag conditions. The race leaders are well away. Look at Kieran Beattie now has consolidated 3rd place. Are we going to see a maiden podium for him? I hesitate to talk too quickly about that. Sean Smith running wide from 4th place. Here comes Nick Bridgman up the inside. John Mickle's going to have a go for 4th as well. Mickle being followed by Miles Rudman. John tees up the inside of Sean Smith, who sees him there. Great racing between the pair. Sean trying to keep it tight as they go through McLean's, which he does. John can't find the way around the outside, goes back into line. As through past Nick Bridgman now comes the number 1 of Miles Rudman. Rudman through. Got Lee Fitzpatrick right behind him as well in the darker blue 55 car. Then the 99 car in the mix as well, as the checkered flag falls on Will Gibson, a 28th career win. He equals Steve Whiteleg. Those 2 cat and mouse on race wins this year. 2nd goes to Marcus Pett. There's contact going into the chicane on the last lap. Lee Fitzpatrick caught the back end of championship leader Miles Rudman. Will Rudman get going again? Kieran Beattie gets a maiden podium. That's the big story here for 3rd place. John Mickle 4th from Sean Smith. And, well, we're going to have to get an official result. Let's have a look at what happened. We're in car with Lee Fitzpatrick, who just goes into the back. He was just too quick onto the back end of Miles Rudman. Miles at the same place virtually, that his rear end caught Mark Beattie. Was that karma? Does that equate things? Does that equal things out? Who knows? Miles is going to feel aggrieved about that for sure. Here's the official result. Gibson from Pett, Kieran Beattie 3rd from John Mickle, Sean Smith and then Charlie Budd. Andy Bird 7th from Gareth Sheridan. Rob Fountain in 9th ahead of Mike Schlupp, completing the top 10. 11th goes to Matthew Knight, the guest driver. Ricky Leggett next up from Luke Simmons and Dan Pooley. Miles Rudman recovers for 15th. Then Jack Parker and Jonty Norman. Ben Higgins was 18th from Steve Whiteleg and Bill Reid in 20th. The classified finishers completed by James Newbury and Lenny Woodcock. Fastest lap, Marcus Pett.
He's here again. So from breaking bits of his car in the first round, and then you just ran off into the distance. Well, that's what it looked like, but it's never really that easy, is it?
No, made a pretty good start. I think we went from 16th to 2nd in the first lap. It kind of, all the spaces just fell for me perfectly. It was, I wouldn't say it was straightforward, but it was nice. It makes a nice change. The car's running much nicer. It's much quieter now, which is good. Really happy. Thanks to the team for helping and getting it ready in time.
A very happy man stands before me. A bigger grin I could not find in the entirety of Donington today. Kieran, wow, what a performance. Coming home on the podium, well done.
Yeah, thank you very much. Absolutely over the moon. Really good race. Yeah, can't stop smiling. I started in first. I noticed that I think it was Ollie Schlupp was supposed to be in second but didn't seem to appear. Must have still been in the workshop. So it was me contending with everyone behind me, trying to keep them behind me really. But no, it seemed to go really, really well. The car performed as it should, and yeah, it was nice, clean racing, lots of overtakes, so good fun. Yeah, really, really good.
First of many, or one step at a time?
I think one step at a time. But, I think. Well, you never know. Yeah, I said that this morning.
That
you
is
never
true.
know. And it's happened before we knew it. So yeah, brilliant.
Right, Ollie Schlupp, pilot of the number 9, coming into this weekend, lead rookie. It's been a bit of a tumultuous weekend for you so far with 2 races down. Talk us through what's happened so far.
Yeah, so in quali in race 1, having small clutch problems, but which just made a lack of power down the straights for the first race. So we did a full engine swap and changed the clutch as well for the second race, and only just made it to the grid with a pit lane start. And then a few laps into that race, we had a prop shaft snap, and that took us out of that race as well. So not the best of race weekend so far.
So again, we've got cars starting from pit lane. They've got work to do. Eduardo Gago on the front row with Paul Simmons, Ollie Schlupp and Len Woodcock on row 2, John T. Norman and Mark Beattie row 3. In car with Beattie, who goes to the outside of Leonard Woodcock. Eduardo Gago, extreme right of shot, is past. He's getting more and more experience of Legends Cars racing, but the leader is Paul Simmons as they go into Redgate. Beattie around the outside of Ollie Schlupp, or is it Ollie Schlupp looking on the inside of him? It is Schlupp up in second place, I think. A little bit of dust being kicked up. This the reverse grid race. The drivers who scored the least number of points from the first 2 races starting off the front. And Steve Whiteleg going for third place in red, gets a little bit squirrely going down into the old hairpin. Whiteleg towards the front because of his moment through the gravel in race 2 saw him start further back. Similarly, with Miles Rudman off the back as well. Woodcock passed by the white 44 in front of Will Gibson. That's Charlie Budd ahead of Will Gibson passing Leonard Woodcock, but it's Paul Simmons, the race leader, and doing a good job here. The 2 teammates, Simmons and Ollie Schlupp, both involved in father and son setups. Ollie and Mike racing, of course, Paul and Luke Simmons racing as well. And Schlupp busy having a look for the lead. Steve Whiteleg in red immediately ahead of him, now challenging for the lead. Whiteleg's having a look on the inside as they come down the straight in towards the chicane. Ollie Schlupp to the outside in the 9 car. Here comes and goes, rather we should say, Steve Whiteleg through and into the lead. The Bridgman Motorsport 66 car into the lead. Paul Simmons second. Mark Beattie now up into third. Then Ollie Schlupp, followed by Kieran Beattie. And this is John Mickle coming through. Passes the number 1 of Miles Rudman. He's having a look at John T. Norman in the 43. John T. holding on well too in the opening laps too, building his confidence at the front of the field. That's the great thing about these reverse grid races. So, dare I say, things relatively well behaved at the moment. Gibson chasing Rudman. Gibson, I think, starting further back than Miles by virtue of Miles' finish a little bit further back down the order in race 2 after that contact. Still a big sort out in these early stages. 99 car is Gareth Sheridan. Chris Needham in the 98 for this race. Gibson, a little bit of bump drafting there with Miles Rudman going uphill into McLean's. Still Steve Whiteleg, the race leader. Kieran Beattie makes a great pass there on number 13, Jack Parker. Two teammates side by side there, Ollie Schlupp and John Mickle. John on the inside will make the pass coming out of Coppice. And then down the straight, Marcus Pett sadly out of the race. Didn't even get a chance to catch up with him after his podium in race 2. More is the pity as Steve Whiteleg continues to lead with now Mark Beattie in second place. Paul Simmons running strongly still in third. And Will Gibson and Luke Simmons both around. Was there contact between the pair? They both recover. They both have lost a lot of positions. Let's see if we can piece together what happened. In car with Gibson. Okay, so the guest car, 222, looked like he got involved with Luke Simmons. And Luke tagged the back of Will Gibson, who gets going again. It looks like Luke got going as well. Okay, so we didn't see contact or feel the contact on Luke Simmons' car from that onboard, but I'm pretty sure the treble 2 guest car might have been involved as well. Apologies to Matthew if that's the case, Matthew Knight in the treble 2 car, but that's the way it kind of looks without another look. We can't really tell us. Mark Beattie was going to challenge for the lead, goes wide, loses some positions there, collects it all back, gets back on track. John Mickle goes past him. Now, was that a brake problem or just a little mistake from Mark Beattie when he got punished for it? He's still there behind Ollie Schlupp. Leonard Woodcock having a manic moment towards the back. Here's Charlie Budd getting stuck in as well with Gareth Sheridan, Chris Needham to the outside of them. Mike Schlupp in the mix as well, as it is still Steve Whiteleg out front. Kieran Beattie hungry for another podium, and confidence has built, hasn't it, for the 33 car ahead of Paul Simmons in third place. More action there, and we'll have more for you after the break. Welcome back. Here's a replay of what we saw before the break. Lee Fitzpatrick coming into Jonty Norman. We've got Dan Pooley involved in the mix as well. Chris Needham gets going. Both black and green cars. And Dan Pooley, something rubbing on the car. Looks like he's going to come into pit lane. So a bit of a chain reaction, I think, happened there. As I've said many times before, perhaps inevitable given the close quarter racing of so many evenly matched cars. This is the view from the back of Mark Beattie. Not looking happy at the moment. Ollie Schlupp in the K-Seal car is going to pop down the inside. Here's the onboard from Mark. Ollie Schlupp goes through, coming into Schwantz corner. Sorry, this is McLean's he's coming into, out of Schwantz into McLean's, and then continuing the uphill run towards Coppice. Miles Rudman now assumes the lead though, so it's Rudman from Whiteleg. John Mickle in third place. First time we've seen John in a potential podium position this weekend, with the pit lane start in race number 1, back of the grid for race 2 by virtue of the draw. Paul Simmons is passed again by Kieran Beattie. These guys having a good race. Jack Parker at the back of the group. Will Gibson recovering way back of shot after his coming together with Luke Simmons. Here is John Mickle though in P3 at the moment, working his way up to have a look at Steve Whiteleg. Whiteleg busy putting the pressure on him. Wado Gaigo gets it sideways, has a gyration, backwards for a bit. Stunt driver knows how to control that sort of things. And we'll get going again in the 37 Ford sedan, but it's Miles Rudman out front. Miles looking to extend the win, take the win on the day if he possibly can. Heading for a 48th career win here, but I might be talking too soon because Steve Whiteleg has got other ideas, and Whiteleg on the outside having a look at Redgate and clearly not feeling any pressure from John Mickle in the quick steel car, who looks on the inside. Steve Whiteleg's got great pace here and super driving from him. Nothing overly defensive at all. Kieran Beattie still there in fourth. I wonder if we're going to see Kieran on the podium. As far as the meeting points go here, he's having a super day. It's Miles Rudman out front from Steve Whiteleg. John Mickle, Kieran Beattie, Paul Simmons driving well. There is Paul in the 51 car, still in a good position, coming under pressure from Jack Parker, who's scoring well too. Now, I haven't done any maths between the races to work out who the meeting winner is going to be. It's going to be quite a difficult one to call. So here is John Mickle again in third place, chasing the 66. This is kind of a rerun of what we saw in the last race on Anglesey a month or so ago. And a beautiful race. Whiteleg trying to bump draft with Miles Rudman, looks to the outside. John Mickle could go for the inside. Kieran Beattie in the mix as well. And all of a sudden we've got 7 cars for the lead, with Andy Bird tagging himself on the back. Bird's been consistent on speed all day long, and he's on the back of Jack Parker. The winner could come from any one of these 7 drivers, possibly Mark Beattie if he could try and join them. How is the lead going? It's still Miles Rudman. Up into second goes John Mickle. Kieran Beattie around the outside of Steve Whiteleg. Then it's Paul Simmons. Great to see so many of the older Masters drivers, the over 40s, in this mix. Absolutely wonderful championship. The age demographic always has been diverse in Legends cars. It remains so. And Miles Rudman remains as the race leader, breaking away from John Mickle with Steve Whiteleg third. They are the podium men potentially at the moment. Kieran Beattie having another very good race. For the guys at the back of this group, it's all about chipping away and taking position by position, and maybe on the penultimate lap trying to get themselves in a position to challenge for the lead, which can sometimes be the desirable place to be. Just saw Andy Bird having a look at maybe trying to get up into 6th place. Andy challenging Jack Parker, wasn't able to do it there, but again they close up on Miles Rudman, who looks like he's got a little bit of boot lid flapping going on as John Mickle goes around the outside into the lead. Steve Whiteleg follows him up into P2 and he's on the outside. Steve is not afraid to use that outside line and challenge. Gets up into P2, back where he was originally. Miles Rudman down to 3rd. Kieran Beattie, well, here you go. If you've ever doubted Kieran Beattie or not heard the name before, look at that. Whiteleg bump draft through into the lead by Miles Rudman. Now Rudman will want to try and challenge. There is the 99. Gareth Sheridan being challenged by Lee Fitzpatrick in the 55. But last knockings of this race, Miles Rudman working really hard there to bump just past John Mickle and get a little bit of opposite lock from Steve Whiteleg, who's controlling the car well, doesn't lose too much momentum. Mickle closing in on Rudman. Kieran Beattie still there, and you've got to say Kieran Beattie for next season, if he reproduces this form meeting by meeting, it's going to be a championship contender as John Mickle looks to the inside, hasn't quite got the momentum to go through into 2nd place, and Miles Rudman in black holds on to it. Back with Mickle. Wide line there, climbing uphill into Coppice, past the 1st apex, out of the 2nd apex, or into the 2nd apex. Now goes Steve Whiteleg, the race leader. Slightly deranged back bumper, probably evidence of a bit of bump drafting on Steve Whiteleg. And John Mickle down in 3rd, goes to the outside. Miles Rudman's going to look to the inside. Steve Whiteleg defending as they come into the chicane. It looks like Rudman's going to be P2. Here they come, though. Steve Whiteleg goes across the line onto the last lap here at Donington Park, and Miles Rudman is well placed here. This is, I guess, exactly where he would want to be, but he's got John Mickle right with him. Mickle now makes a move, looks to the inside, can't go through. Miles Rudman there, busy chasing Steve Whiteleg. Kieran Beattie looks around the outside line. Andy Bird coming up as well. Andy Bird has got up into 5th place. He's been chipping away, exactly as we said a driver needs to do. Is Andy Bird going to get 4th or a podium here? Andy challenging the orange car of Kieran Beattie, but Steve Whiteleg, I tell you what, the drivers tell you they don't want to be in the lead for the last 3 laps. They want to get into the lead on the last lap normally, but Whiteleg is soaking up the pressure, as this man Kieran Beattie did for his podium in race 2. Andy Bird right behind him. Steve Whiteleg still the leader. John Mickle applying big pressure. Now to Miles Rudman. Here comes Mickle, looks round the outside. Optimistic stuff, but you know, John will have a look. There was room there, but he didn't have the momentum. Out of Coppice for the last time goes race leader Steve Whiteleg. How defensive will he have to be going down into the chicane? Beattie gets a little bit of a run, a little bit of a rub or a bump draft from Andy Bird as we go into the chicane for the last time, and Steve Whiteleg has withstood everything thrown at him so far. Mike Schlimm slowing up. Andy Bird makes it through, and here they come down to the line, and Steve Whiteleg takes it from Miles Rudman. John Mickle in 3rd. What a great defensive drive by Steve Whiteleg. Superb stuff. We thought he might lose that being in the lead on the penultimate lap, but he managed to hang on to it. Whiteleg the winner, Rudman 2nd, Mickle 3rd. Andy Bird comes through for 4th place from Kieran Beattie. A great day for him. Paul Simmons wrapping up the top 6, but Steve Whiteleg goes ahead again of Will Gibson in career wins. That's up to career win number 29. Already giving you the top 6. 7th place goes to Mark Beattie from Will Gibson and Jack Parker. Charlie Budd completing the top 10. 11th was Nathan Anthony from Matthew Knight. In 12th then Ollie Schlupp, Ricky Leggett and Luke Simmons. Lee Fitzpatrick in 16th from Robin Fountain, Gareth Sheridan and Bill Reid in 19th position. Fastest lap on his recovery was Will Gibson. That was on lap 5, so half distance for him. Let's hear from our race winner.
So what a performance, Stephen Whiteleg. So second, first, starting 12th in the final race and managing to pit Mr. Rudman to the top spot. My goodness me, that's a difficult smile to beat.
Yes, it was. The plan right from the get-go was, so I started in 12th. I thought I've got to get to the front as soon as possible because I knew Miles and John were starting near the back, but I didn't think it'd be long before they were through, and probably Will as well, but I didn't see Will. And sure enough, yeah, it was probably about lap 5, 6 was it, something like that. They arrived, and I thought, all right, they both managed to get past. But we had a good old tussle between us and really enjoyed it. Worked together with both drivers, but unfortunately my rear bumper became detached, so John wasn't able to push me where Miles had done, and we basically got in front, and I managed to get them both, or keep them both behind to the finish. But only just.
So once again, it's the champion and championship leader starting from 17th and still coming home second, and by a very tiny margin. What a performance yet again, Mr. Rudman.
Yeah, it was a good race, and it was really close between the top 3, I think. But yeah, I managed to get into the lead, I think, fairly early on. Led it most of it, but yeah, it was just like a sitting duck really. So they managed to catch me, and yeah, we were swapping positions. Steve got into the lead, and then yeah, I just tried to work with him a bit. But yeah, it was really close, and we're happy with second place.
Wow, pilot of the number 4, John Mickle. Always great to see you, John. And what a day's racing you've had. You started from the pit lane in race 1. You were 6th after that one, 4th in race 2. Started 20th and pushed to the podium. You don't want to make it easy for yourself, do you?
No, it's been one of them days really, but obviously starting from pit lane was a bit of a handicap in the first race. It is what it is. You know, we shouldn't have been there, but we was. But that's the way it is. But obviously, as the day went on, we got up to 3rd, so that's good. Just a few more points, and just keep on going, and we'll see how we get on tomorrow.
Showing the youth how it's done. So next round, we're back on these shores. Are we looking forward to seeing you back on the podium? Is there much you have to do to the car to get it back in shape?
No, there's a couple of things we found out, so hopefully we can find a bit more speed for tomorrow, and then hopefully we can get some better results than today. But hopefully the quick steel car will get the number 1 this time and hit a 3rd or 4th or 5th.
The sums have been done, and it's Will Gibson that wins the round here. The most points on the day from John Mickle, the man we just heard from in 2nd. Andy Bird gets the podium. 3rd position for Andy from Miles Rudman, with Steve Whiteleg 5th and Kieran Beattie in 6th place for round 10. The championship as we head into day 2 here, still headed by Miles Rudman from John Mickle and Will Gibson. Steve Whiteleg in 3rd from Marcus Pett and Jack Parker. Chris Brockhurst, Paul Simmons, Charlie Budd and the team car of Needham and Sheridan completing the top 10. That's it for today. Join us for day 2 in our next programme. From all of us here on the show, thanks for watching and bye-bye for now.